Find a comfortable position. Notice the experience of the body. The emotional content. Thinking. No need to categorize. No need to control. Just stay with what is. Just notice how your experience moves, how your emotions change. Maybe you experience the subtlety of prana moving in the body, like tingling sensations. You noticed thinking. Maybe you also noticed the more subtle attitudes. Things like longing, belief. Just notice whatever this moment brings. If you resist emotional content, just notice. Be with the feeling of resisting. Just allow whatever movement there is. How everything is transient. Notice the sensation of I. See where it originates. If the sensation of I is a phenomenon, is a sensation of the body, you have to ask yourself, how can I be aware of the I? Is there two I? Notice the changeful nature of everything. And notice the unchangeful nature of everything, of awareness itself. Equality beyond phenomena. If you sense any form of resistance, notice. can open your eyes, move your body if you need to, move your hands, feet if you want to. I got a very long question today. Let's see if we can get through this one. Okay. Annika writes, I invite to feel more every day and practice being even more alert. I usually sit for about 45 minutes to an hour. After about 30 minutes, there's usually a deepening happening right now. So it feels important to sit for as long as possible, as it seems to yield a lot. By deepening, I mean that something deeper emotionally often releases. Some insight or realization can take place. There is often quiet tears, and then a profound calm and stillness. One day there was a transformative heart opening with the deep sounds, as if the whole heart and I become wide open. It's like my entire being is speaking with God. I am practicing not to be afraid, to continue to be open, and telling myself that I can hold it even now when I release more. I think this is what I have been afraid of and unconsciously held back. Afraid of feeling alone with my experiences. Now I'm trying to welcome more and say that it's time to open up for more, that it's okay, that I am ready. Speaking to myself as my own inner parent and holding my own hand, so it's not entirely without fear. God, in quotes, usually comes around after 30 minutes, as if I can feel the energy passing through the throat and up, some kind of surrender and letting go takes place, and tears come. I experience it as both pleasant, subtle, a bit painful, and I don't really know, and somewhat intoxicating in some way. It's subtle and strong at the same time. Now I wonder if I can become addicted to this, if it's okay to enjoy it because I do, or should I keep more of a distance to all kinds of sensations to observe, experience, but not give it energy? Am I too much emotionally, or is this the journey and how it should be? What do you do? I feel my inner seeing is expanding now between my meditations. I'm trying to welcome instead of shutting down, saying more yes to my intuition. It feels like it's a part of daring to let go a bit more and deepening in meditation and within myself. What is your experience with this? From this question, I noticed that there's a very strong idea of you practicing. You talk about deepening, opening, and in all that there has to be some kind of control. There has to be an idea of the meditator. So this is the first question. Who is practicing? Who is opening up more? Who is deepening? So that is a good place to start. And the experience itself can be very much like that. It can feel, you can feel almost high from it, and it can at the same time feel a bit painful. I think a very common feeling is that it's a bit too much, that you're overwhelmed by the silence. And of course, the egoic mind can be addicted to anything. So of course also to this experience. And it's very common that if you start to practice, maybe you're mostly uncomfortable. Your body is painful. There's a lot of thoughts. It's not so nice. But when it starts to become very pleasant, as Annika writes, after 30 minutes, there's a lot of space. It's just quiet, stillness. Then it's very easy to do the conclusion that this is it. This is the thing. And as soon as the egoic mind starts to relate to that, it wants it again. And it can keep it in a pocket where the sensation is there, but there's not really a letting go. It just keeps this nice sensation, and it feels like, the egoic mind feels like I can bring this out in my meditation every time. And it can be very addictive. Like you're putting yourself in a kind of a trance. But the same question there. For who is the meditation? Who is the meditator? Who is the one who likes the meditation? Who's the one being addicted? And also, Annika writes about her emotional responses. Those are also things that you can be addicted to. That you start to, yes, every time when I come deep in my meditation, some tears come. So it feels like you're almost looking for that. But it's quite obvious also, because all these things, as long as there is longing in this way, and you're looking for things, and you have expectations, it's all in time. It's all in the dimension of time. So just be aware of it. Notice. Ask the question, to whom is this happening? And I think that some people who go into non-dual meditation thinks that there is absolutely no doing in it, but there can be a sense of doing which dissolves the egoic impulses. It can feel like things like allowing. There can be a sense of also just opening. All these are very much in the letting go. And they can feel like actions, but what you fall into is not something that you have to uphold. And also the same with asking the question, who is the meditator, or who am I, the Atmavichar, also feels like an action, but that the purpose of it is not to uphold something. It's not to do it forever, or as a practice that you just should uphold. It's always to fall into non-doing or being, whatever you want to call it. And there's no problem with the experience being pleasant. The problem is to identify with that and want it again. The experience will naturally be pleasant and unpleasant, painful and pleasurable. That's part of what the experience is. But the relationship to it is everything. If you think that I have to avoid all feelings of pain, and as soon as it happens, this should not happen, and have these kind of... It's very natural. Like everything with the body is changeful, and other bodies, and death, and all these things, very natural. But when we resist, that's a problem. And same with pleasure. We like it and we want it again. And then we create and hold on to this I. And she also talks about this, the fear of letting go. It's also a very natural thing, because you're so used to your egoic mind and the sensation of I. So that always feels quite brutal. Feels like you get less space, or you're burning up, or you're being erased. Cut too thin. But the question is, who is being erased? Who is being cut too thin? Who is not getting enough space? It's not meant as a philosophical exercise, this. Just look. And your practice will make you feel like an idiot sometimes. You will feel like you've been knocking on the wrong door for a long, long time, for example. But if I just work harder, if I just do like this and this, and then you notice, oh, that has nothing to do with it. And I love this Rumi poem that says, all this time I've been knocking on this door, only to realize that I've been knocking from the inside. Please, God, open. And she also writes here that she says, it's okay, I am ready, speaking to myself as my own inner parent, holding my own hand. And allowing that sense that you have when you're afraid to notice that you're held in this moment. It's not that you experience yourself as something that is held, but there is heldness. That is just a quality of everything. The quality of awareness. Because when the ego is held, it feels like it can be held and it can be not held, it can be dropped. But awareness doesn't have that quality. It does not come and go. This is the beauty of bhakti. That quality. And why many bhakti yogis are so happy. They allow the quality of this moment to be. there is only jhana and questions and questioning, you worry. You might have a mind that is extremely good at thinking that it can predict the future. And the safest way is to think about every scenario and how it can happen. But you cannot control the future. Because there really is no future, if you want to be blunt about it. And if you rest in the present, everything will unfold as it unfolds. What will happen, will happen. What will not happen, will not happen. I'm a little bit amazed that so few people venture into the possibilities of the present moment. Because it's quite obvious that there's a lot of space there. And as soon as you touch time, it's very rigid. It's a very small world. And all the things that you practice to be more present should have the same quality. It should not be a practice that you have to uphold. You might practice gratitude. You make a little ceremony every time you eat. Maybe you sing a little mantra. Maybe you thank for a new day when you wake up. Whatever you do. But gratitude is the inherent quality of the moment. It's not something that you have to uphold. But when you're not in gratitude or it feels far away, then it's a good practice. All the practices should just be getting closer to what is and those qualities. And when you are in the present moment and there is no distractions, there's obviously gratitude. Because all gratitude is just the acceptance of now. Ungratitude is resisting the now. So when we talk about practices, they're not really practices, they're just the quality of the present. So if your practice is upheld for too long, then you have to ask why. Why do I fall back in ungratefulness all the time? This is a very good question. But the question is often, how can I uphold gratefulness? And the more you notice that all those qualities are natural qualities, that's why it feels like there's a lot of things to do in the beginning. And the more you practice, the less there is. Because I hear these questions all the time. How do I uphold my practice? The question is, why do you fall back into your old patterns? What are you addicted to? Who are you? Do you understand the difference? I just want to tell everyone online that if you want to ask any questions, you can just write it in the chat and I will answer them. Any questions today?
Chop off our heads immediately.
Very good. If you didn't hear online, she said you chopped off our heads immediately. I'm very happy to hear that.
So, how do we know if we are identified with an emotion? You said avoiding pleasure, avoiding pain and wanting pleasure, for example.
Yes.
Are there any more criteria?
That is the big thing that the ego does in everything. And also a way to spot how fears work, because they always do these. They always try to find a more pleasurable way and avoid everything that is painful. And at its extreme, it makes things like it avoids certain people because they're too honest or they're too confronting or something. You know that if you come in that context, they're going to expose you or whatever it is. This is what the ego really dislikes. And also why it's so big on like hiding also things that are pleasurable to the ego. Because if someone would criticize it, it wouldn't feel good, and all these. So it's usually very, very obvious, these things, these patterns. Because you can try it. You can just, like an exercise in your mind. You can just try. Yes, this behavior that I have. Would it be okay to expose it for people, like in the satsang or just in any context? And if you feel absolutely not, then you know that the egoic mind is there.
Like addictions, for example?
Yes.
That's seeking pleasure, isn't it?
Yes. And addictions is addiction is just the main component of the addiction is the idea of I. It's not the substance, or because the whole idea that I am going to get this pleasure again, that is the addiction. The addiction is always in time. In the now, there is just the experience of pleasure. But as soon as it enters and you identify with it, it says, that was lovely, I want that again. And whatever it is, the most innocent things that you just like can also be addictive in that. But when we talk about addiction in society, there's always the talk about how can we avoid this drug getting into the streets, or There's always on the level of that, but no one asks the question, who is the one getting addicted? And also addiction is so much more complex than just with drugs or like these obvious addictions. You're so easily addicted to attention or being confirmed in a certain way and all these things, but also not to be too harsh with all those things in you, then be with them and be all right with them. It will not be helpful to be very judgmental about everything that you're addicted to, but it will be very clear to you in your practice what it is. And all the time finding a good balance with it. Because if you just judge it, it's just more ego. It's just a way to try and push it away. What did you want to ask?
No, I just wanted to say I heard, I think it was Eckhart Tolle that said you can't stop drinking is almost like you can't stop thinking. And that's also like a big addiction for many people, that they can't stop thinking.
Yes. And also the whole addiction to thinking and to keep the story of the person up all the time is also what creates all this identity, and also that makes it impossible sometimes to feel like you can stop with something. Because it's you're addicted to the person first and foremost. And then that is just an expression of that. But people look at the next step always. They never question who is addicted. Yeah.
I have a question. I read a book the other day, and then it said like the whole book is centered around think for yourself and figure out what is true, and then I went into self-inquiry with that, and I just felt like if I really want to know, like if I'm actually very, very honest with myself, and if I want to know what's true, like my experience was that I get much deeper into truth or God or whatever we choose to call it.
Yes, I think all these kind of questions that what is happiness? What is freedom? Who am I? Are very good questions and good things to contemplate, to a certain point. But the best thing is always to experience, to see what it is. Because the mind is good at asking these questions, but without the experience of it, they just become a thing. Another phenomena, another idea. And in worst case, just a blind belief. And there are so many, it's so common to hear, you hear these wise words, and then since you heard them, you think that you know it. And you just limit yourself a lot through that. So always check where you are. And if you observe yourself, it will be obvious when those things are misaligned. Most common things are, I thought I was done with this, or that is the most common thing, that people are surprised that something comes again. And it doesn't have to mean anything that it comes again, but they take it as, oh, it's back. But the mind, it just pokes a little bit. And if you had a fear in the past, and it can push that button again, it's gonna try it. Even though you don't respond anymore, it will sometimes just. And maybe you have for a long time, you practice every day, you feel your energy level is very high, you feel very clear all the time, and then you get sick, you feel a bit sorry about yourself, you're missing Christmas Eve, and the thoughts just... The ego waits until you're a little bit miserable and you think that you have a bad day. Then it comes, push your buttons. But this is a very... If that starts to happen and you have a lot of space like that, that is a very good sign. If the ego just comes knocking when you feel weak, then it has so little space to maneuver. Just want to make it very clear. The ego sometimes, when we talk about it, sounds like an entity that has its own little will, and that is a little devil on your shoulder. But it's just an impulse that, when it gets energy, it can continue. You are the source of everything. The egoic mind is not the source. It just presents things. But so does the experience in its whole. It presents you with people. Someone comes and says an idea, or it presents you with a painful situation or a pleasant situation or whatever it is. And what do you think that it is? And if you identify with it and says, now this has happened to me, which is the common way of approaching life. You said, I got this disease, now this is happening to me. But it is not true. And it's not, And not because I say that it's not true. You can look and notice that it's not true. Things just happen. They don't happen to you. Even serious things don't happen to you. We're just much more likely to take the things that we consider serious much more personal. Death, disease, whatever. Loss. And I also want to make clear that even if you're not drawn into the identity of those things, it does not make you a cold person. It actually makes you the opposite. Because in that situation, you will not be fear-ridden. You will not be taken by fear. Love will still be there. And that is the natural expression of awareness.
Yes, when you have this big shift, you can still feel emotions, but you don't identify with them. Is it true?
Yes, there. But also that some emotions are not at all prevalent.
Fear?
Not at all prevalent.
Not at all. Wow.
Because fear is completely associated with the sensation of I.
Misunderstanding.
Yes.
Yes.
And you don't have any sense of I at all?
In my experience, it happens sometimes. Sometimes there is still identification. But it lasts very short. And there is no worry about that. There is so much gratitude. There used to be so much worry in this experience. So much anxiety. There's so much love, so much peace.
Which emotions or feelings are not associated with a me?
which feelings are not associated with it.
You said fear is always associated.
Yes. But I have to be clear there, because fear can come and you don't have to buy into it. Then you have the experience of fear, but no identification. But and also that the positive feelings, if there is identification, you can always. That is how love is perceived in our culture. Is that we experience love, and then I say, "I love you."
Yes.
You are the source of my love.
Yes.
You understand?
Yes.
So that is how we do also, and if you feel gratefulness or whatever it is, you can think that someone is the source of that, because you associate it with that. And that's also what happens when you go to a teacher, or you can have all these feelings and they get projected. Like they told Ramana when he was about to leave his body, they said, "Ramana, please don't leave us." And he said, "Where can I go? I am here." Because he did not at all see himself as the physical body. But his followers did. So they thought that he was leaving. And they associate their happiness and their peace so much with him.
Even though they've been sitting with him for years.
Yes. Yes. That can also happen. You can always get into a pocket. And and you feel like giving this up is giving up my love to my guru. Or you can have all these ideas.
That's the traps of bhakti, can it be right?
Yes.
Guru.
Yes.
Yeah, like Christianity and Jesus.
Yes. And certain religions have that built in, that you go through them. Like in Christianity, some parts of Christianity where it's like you go through the priest or you go through Jesus. That is the way into heaven. So then you really cement that sense in people. And without that, they're lost. But it's all in you. But that is, and I understand also why it's not a very popular view, because if you say to people that everything happens in them, if you're truthful with them, then they're not bound to you.
But heaven is within.
Yeah.
Jesus said.
Yes, and Jesus didn't push Christianity.
That's very true.
So that is the whole the whole duality that happens in Christianity, is that Jesus had a message that is very much in line with what is, and then there is the religion that is created around him, but it's not created by someone who understood that. It's created on a completely different basis. And in some parts of Christianity, they have much more emphasis on the parts that Jesus taught. And those are the mystical traditions. But many traditions are not like that. They're more like a set of rules, of morals, and a system that you can take part of.
Was your bhakti directed like to your guru? Like when you had did you have bhakti practices that you had?
I had a very distinct moment where I understood that I was lacking bhakti. I met an Indian teacher called Raya Krishna, and he just talked to me very casually and asked if I had any problems in meditation. And I say, I still worry a lot. And he said, that's just lack of faith. And before that point, I don't think that I had considered faith to be a parameter in my practice at all. Not something that you could have or lack. I just thought that faith belonged to people who were religious, and they were a little bit conned into believing something. They had this blind faith that was more or less what I thought about it. But he was so casual about it. He was so natural about it. Probably because he was Indian and had had faith in God since he was a child. And of course he'd seen it in all the Westerns that he met that they didn't have it. So for him it was like, yes, you're another one of those. and that hit me hard. It was like I was walking in the desert and someone was presenting me with water.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it felt like. And when the door has been opened, it's then you start to have these, the mind can say things about whatever you're about to do, but you feel like, even if I seem like an idiot, I still want to do this. If people start to think that Marcus has become some crazy religious person, I start to feel like I don't care. I want to know, and I know that this is the part that is lacking. So I started to sing bhajans and do ceremonies and bow to pictures of the teachers that all these very bhakti things to do. And I think that it can be expressed so differently in different people. Many people feel it in nature, the vastness of nature and the beauty of everything. They feel very connected and they feel like they're just a small part in something much bigger. All these things. I call it how I learned to bow. And that took away the whole sense of me as a doer. This strong sense of, if you grow up in a family where you have a very strong sense of you can achieve anything. Parents have always been very supportive, and you can do whatever you want, you can be whatever you want, but that also gives the feeling that everything is on your shoulders. If you're a failure, it's your fault. And if you're successful, you can take all the credit. You understand? All these. But there's so much identification in all that. And as soon as you start to bow and you understand that also it's very logical. You have been given these things from your parents and from your childhood or whatever it is. That is what you have with you. And another person has completely different set of tools. Or perhaps not at all the same possibilities as you have, or different possibilities, whatever it is. But that is just very different. And also that when you see people who are begging in the streets or whatever, you have to understand that it's a different set of parameters that could be you. It has nothing to do with ability or whatever you think. Some of them are super smart, or none of those things play into that. And when you start to realize all those things, then you're grateful for everything that you have been given. And the judgment of others is not very interesting. I'm just gonna answer some of these. See, I have 2 questions here. Richard is asking, how do you let go of the I? Does it dissolve in meditation? Who is letting go of the I? Who is the one surrendering? The question here is, we have to answer, what is the I? What is it that is going to be dissolved? And who is the one who's going to be purified from the I? And it's just to look and to see that there is no I. That's it. And it never was. It's also a feeling that through the eyes of the egoic mind, there is a feeling that the ego is there to a certain point and then it dissolves. And then it gets rid of. But it's not like that. It also never was. It was never you. But the persistence of it presenting what you are and you buying it gives the temporary illusion that there is a sense of I. It has to be upheld. And this is the key of all the things that we talked about today, also the practices. As soon as things needs to be upheld, they can of course be dismantled. And the I is really like that. 90% of your thoughts are concerned with that. To uphold the sense of I. That is most of thoughts. They come and you continue and you have some kind of relationship to it, so you continue this relationship, you answer the stories, you continue, you put in energy all the time, making the I last. And that's why meditation that questions the I is so powerful, because that can make you have a gap in that story, that continuous story otherwise. And then you get this experience like Annika wrote about, that you feel like, oh, it's just space and God, and it's overwhelming and there are tears and it just feels so big, because otherwise it's just upheld all the time. But this spaciousness, this is the foundation of us. It's not a fantastic meditation experience. It is what is. There is freedom if the egoic mind is not upheld. When you're searching on your spiritual path, you are the one who stands in your own way. The idea of you is the biggest obstacle. That is what makes everything complicated and makes you try from certain angles, try to change your strategy. All this comes from that same I. There are not really different problems in that to solve. There is only one thing all the time that comes to the surface and says, I am a person. I have this problem. I'm on a spiritual path. I want to be happy. I am afraid. Whatever it says. But if we're going to talk about it truthfully, there is an experience of the person. There is an experience of fear. This is an experience of being on a path. But that just happens. And there's another question, which is, whenever I create resistance to what is, I feel the resistance in my body, in the chest, and not in my mind. Same with the letting go. When I let go, I feel the ease in the body. Is this wrong? Resistance can be very physical. And especially if you have practiced meditation for a while, the experience of the body will become much more prevalent. There will be much more experiencing of the body than in thinking. This is a very natural thing that should happen in your practice, that the experience of the body is much more prevalent. And sometimes people describe it as, I was in my mind in the beginning, relating to my mind, and I started to being able to watch my mind, and it's quite easy because the mind is very, thoughts are usually quite gross, and most people find emotions to be more subtle, so that goes first. So that spaciousness is there first, and then there is more, you're more in the body. And when you resist the moment, it's often a combination of those two. But if the mind is not there so much, they can be much more in the emotions. And the emotions, in a way, is you can just be with them. You just have to allow them to express. And with the emotions, they can be so easy to go into these pockets of resistance. Because if the emotions don't feel nice, if it feels like frustration or anger or some kind of what you consider negative emotions, it can feel like you want out of your body. You don't want to stay with it. But this very much just creates more resistance. So do the opposite of what the egoic mind wants. It says you can distract yourself, you can do this or that. Just stay with the emotions. And see what they present. And see that they are transient, that they are changeful. They always change. And same person writes, can the resistance be anywhere else than in my body? Yes, it can also take expression in your thoughts. And try to get you somewhere else mentally. That's also resistance. That the mind says, let's distract ourselves, let's do this. Let's have a snack, let's watch TV, whatever it is.
can't the resistance be in the emotions?
Yes, of course. That's what.
Okay.
Yeah. Resistance is often in the emotional. Yes. And we can be so used to certain kinds of resistance that we say that that resistance is natural. For example, the relationship with the pain in the body, many people just say that is real pain. There is nothing I can do with this. And there's full resistance to it, and you suffer the resistance, but you don't question it because it's just such a physical phenomenon that you connect it so deeply with your resistance in identification with it. But there is a big difference in the experience if you resist pain and if you don't resist pain. You never look for pain, of course, in your practice, but all people will experience it from time to time. And if you don't resist it, it has a completely different quality, because then it's not related to you. It doesn't feel like the pain, you're not a victim of the pain anymore. And this, I think, is one of those things that really shows you your identification. If you get sick, or you get sick for a long time, or whatever, and you're in a lot of pain in the body, you will notice where your mind goes with it. But use those moments. Stay with it. Notice what pain is, and the relationship to it, and the resistance to it. Is one of the great fears, pain in the body. And it's also very obvious that it's so different. Different people have such a different response to pain. Some relate to it very relaxed, and other people get panic as soon as there is a little pain. There is such a big scale of how you identify with it. And I think this is also why, both in our culture, like if you go and get a tattoo, or there are different venues where you explore, that people explore pain. And some people tattoo themselves in their armpit or super painful areas. And they say things like it's almost a religious experience and things like that. And this has also been practiced in many cultures. Because they start to notice the identification with pain changes. And the whole purpose of this of coming to satsang is to dispel all those myths. To not be afraid of what is happening in your practice. And in some cases to make the extraordinary ordinary. Because it's also not good that things are too mythical and feels too far away. The things in the practice is just normal. And your boat will be rocked. If you do inquiry, if you stay with what is, if you follow your longing, your existential longing for truth, your boat will be rocked. It can feel scary. For many people it is. And you get fear-ridden. A part of you will say, you have to stop this practice. There will be nothing left. You will leave everyone behind. No one will understand you. You will become insane, alone. But that is just fear. And those thoughts are just in time. How can you be lost? You are here. If you're a thing, you can be lost. If you're a phenomenon, you can be lost. But that doesn't seem to be the case. And you have to be okay with not understanding. And also to go into the unknown. To be okay with uncertainty. To be okay with being lost. Being lost is a great place. Because if you're found, then you're really lost.
feel the last few weeks. I felt not fear, but maybe like a lack of joy or excitement about the practice.
Mm.
I still practice and yeah.
Is it boring and dry?
No. And it's moving somehow. So I keep practicing. There is a pull to it, but it doesn't feel fun. There's also resistance to it. Not boring, but maybe it's a little bit scary. Maybe that.
Ah. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Obehag.
Yes. It's not pleasant.
No. No, it's not. It's very different from feeling so excited and happy all the time.
Yes. And very inspired to sit. It's very easy to sit.
And also the heart, it can feel beautiful, but it's very short and then again.
This is very good, because when you're personally invested in it, then you want it to be great in some way, or you want it to give you a kick, or even before you sit, you feel excited. But all that is in time, of course, in expectations. So when it doesn't feel like it will fill those expectations anymore, because maybe there's a little taste of death in sitting, or very, very subtle fear.
And also when it feels open and more empty, it doesn't feel pleasant. Like
No.
Sometimes it did before, when it felt more like an experience. Wow. And now.
Yeah, it's not so nice.
No.
The stillness is not so nice anymore.
No,
It feels crushing.
disorienting.
How would you describe it?
Yeah, scary.
Scary.
Yeah. As an experience, it was more. It just feels like there's nothing left. It's just no.
Yeah. There's nothing to find there.
Yeah.
You're not going to get anything out of it.
Yeah, it's not blissful. It's
Yes. Very
no,
good.
It's nothing. It's not what
Very good.
I want.
Yes.
Yes.
Just continue. And just tell me what happens. Because the egoic mind is looking for signs and something that shows that you're on a build-up to a big spiritual verge of something. And if those things are not there, it will be a bit, why do we practice? I don't know. Maybe something is wrong now. Maybe I should just take a break from it. All these things.
to read something from your book?
This one?
Yeah.
Yes, perhaps. You're wondering what I'm reading? Maybe this one. This is my favorite. Bunch of them. Ashtavakra Gita. You know it? Yes. And this is a beautiful translation by Thomas Bryer. It's like one of the Vedanta non-dual texts. And Ashtavakra was a sage, and Ashtavakra means bent in 8 places because he had a very deformed body. And there's a famous story about him coming to King Janaka, and because King Janaka was looking for a wise sage to teach him about meditation and all these things. And he's there, and all these masters from different traditions are there, and most of them are like dressed in really fine silks and gold, and because they are the master of their tradition. And when Ashtavakra comes, he has like ragged clothes and almost nothing, and can hardly walk. And they're pointing at him and laughing, and Ashtavakra just starts to laugh and laugh and laugh and laugh. And they say, "We understand why everyone here is laughing at you, but why are you laughing?" And Ashtavakra is like, "Because I'm laughing at that King Janaka is going to choose me as his sage, because all of you think that you're the body." And that is also great. And I think, yes, let's stop there. I just see if this is a long one. This one is called The Self. "O Master, tell me how to find detachment, wisdom, and freedom. Child, if you wish to be free, shun the poison of the senses. Seek the nectar of truth, of love and forgiveness, simplicity and happiness. Earth, fire and water, the wind and the sky, you are none of these. If you wish to be free, know that you are the self, the witness of all these, the heart of awareness. Set your body aside. Sit in your own awareness. You will at once be happy, forever still, forever free. You have no cost. No duties bind you. Formless and free, beyond the reach of the senses, the witness of all things. So be happy. Right or wrong, joy and sorrow, these are of the mind only. They are not yours. It's not really you who acts or enjoys. You are everywhere, forever free. Forever and truly free, the single witness of all things. But if you see yourself as separate, then you are bound. I do this, I do that. The big black snake of selfishness has bitten you. I do nothing. This is the nectar of faith. So drink and be happy. Know you are one, pure awareness. With the fire of this conviction, burn down the forest of ignorance, free yourself from sorrow, and be happy. Be happy, for you are joy, unbound joy. You are awareness itself. Just as a coil of a rope is mistaken for a snake, so you are mistaken for the world. If you think you are free, you are free. If you think you are bound, you're bound. For the saying is true, you are what you think. The self looks like the world, but this is just an illusion. The self is everywhere. One, still, free, perfect. The witness of all things, awareness without action, clinging or desire. Meditate on the self, one without two, exalted awareness. Give up the illusion of the separate self. Give up the feeling, within or without, that you are this or that. My child, because you think you are the body, for a long time you have been bound. Know you are pure awareness. With this knowledge as your sword, cut through your chains and be happy. For you are already free, without action or flaw, luminous and bright. You are bound only by the habit of meditation. Your nature is pure awareness. You are flowing in all things, and all things are flowing in you. But beware the narrowness of the mind. You are always the same, unfathomable awareness, limitless and free, serene and imperturbed. Desire only your own awareness. Whatever takes form is false. Only the formless endures. When you understand the truth of this teaching, you will not be born again. For God is infinite within the body and without, like a mirror and the image in the mirror. As the air is everywhere, flowing around a pot and filling it, so God is everywhere, filling all things and flowing through them forever. Maybe I should show. And on the stream, if you want to take a screenshot, you will have the lyrics to the songs, to the bhajans. Okay, good. He he Govinda, he he Gopala, he he Govinda, he he Gopala, he Vasudeva, he Nitya Nityananda, He Vasudeva, He Nityananda, Shri Radhe Radhe Radhe, Radhe 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 Shama, Shri Radhe Radhe Radhe, Radhe 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 Shama, He He Govinda, He He Gopala, He He Govinda, He He Gopala, He Vasudeva, He Nityananda, He Vasudeva, He Nityananda, Shri Radhe Radhe Radhe, Radhe 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 Shama, Shri Radhe Radhe Radhe, Radhe 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 Shama, He He Govinda, He He Gopala, He He Govinda, He He Gopala, He Vasudeva, He Nityananda, He Vasudeva, He Nityananda, Shri Radhe Radhe Radhe, Radhe 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 Shama, Shri Radhe Radhe Radhe, Radhe 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 Shama, He He Govinda, He He Gopala, He He Govinda, He He Gopala, He Vasudeva, He Nityananda, He Vasudeva, He Nityananda, Shri Radhe Radhe Radhe, Radhe 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 Shama, Shri Radhe Radhe Radhe, Radhe 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 Shama, He He Govinda, He He Gopala, He He Govinda, He He Gopala, He Vasudeva, He Nityananda, He Vasudeva, He Nityananda, Shri Radhe Radhe Radhe, Radhe 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 Shama, Shri Radhe Radhe Radhe, Radhe 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 Shama, He He Govinda, He Gopala, He Govinda, He Gopala. Thank you.